So good morning, Jule.
Good morning, Mike.
On July 1st, you'll become only the third CEO in HMEA history, which is pretty amazing. So we know you're uniquely qualified. This was a really careful transition. You're the right person to lead the organization. But who knew several years ago when we were thinking about this, that on March 10th, the governor would declare a state of emergency and the whole globe would be thrown into a pandemic. So you've been doing a great job leading the effort here, but what's it been like, Jule, to lead during this time?
Wow. Well, the past few months have probably been some of the most challenging and actually some of the most rewarding as well in my entire career. Frankly, I felt this huge responsibility for the health and safety of the people we support and our employees during, this whole pandemic. And actually, it almost felt like it was beyond health and safety. It felt like life and death decisions were being made. So that there was no playbook. So it was challenging. There's no doubt about it. But I knew at being at the helm that I was the leader. I needed to be calm. I needed to be decisive, and I needed to help move the team and our organization forward. So quickly, making decisions to close our programs when we thought we had a presumptive case of COVID-19. And then there was a second presumptive case of COVID-19. That was a Sunday afternoon, and making the decision to close programs down was just really challenging. I mean, the amount of lives that affected was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people not being able to go to their programs, people isolating within their residential programs, the families that it affected who couldn't go to work, they needed to stay home with their children. Just a huge amount of responsibility. But that Sunday afternoon, that evening, I knew it was the right decision. You just kept watching the news. You could see the cases of COVID-19 positive cases just growing. And you're like, that was the best thing to do to keep people safe and to decrease the contacts that they make on a day-to-day basis in congregate programs. Quickly, as you know, Mike, we, as an executive team, that Monday, we pretty much said, this is it. This is the executive crisis response team. We're going to be meeting every morning and every afternoon so we could just evaluate the volumes of information that was coming out on a day-to-day basis around COVID and what it was doing, what we needed to do to protect people and keep them safe. It was remarkable to see the executive team come together, work together very successfully, may I add, to help pivot the organization within a week. Within a week's time, this group and management throughout this organization put a lot of things in place. So we had telehealth happening, we had remote services happening. We were communicating as a team via video conferencing. Our entire organization went from face-to-face, person-centered, in-person to virtual and remote, just like within a week. It was just remarkable and quite successful. And because we have residential programs, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had employees there, frontline employees who, you know what, there is no social distancing when you're caring for people in homes. So what did we need to do to make sure that they were safe, had the right PPE in place, the right cleaning supplies, all of those things? We quickly pulled it together and put teams together who were able to make sure that we had PPE and all the right supplies within our homes, as well as acknowledging that we need to pay our frontline staff more money. So we did increase our pay rates across the board for folks who are putting their own safety aside for the health and safety of the people we support.
So Jule, if I could step in there, I know we've had over 50 cases of people, either staff or people we support, contract COVID. And I want to, we all want to thank our frontline staff, essential workers who kept people safe during the pandemic. And now we're entering a different phase. Jule, another thing we couldn't have anticipated at all is the whole racial justice movement. The death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. And I know this has affected the organization deeply. I know it has affected you deeply. What's it been like, someone in your position who is so invested in diversity and equity to lead during this time?
Wow. Well, there are two pandemics that have been going on, right? So we have COVID-19 and we've had a racial pandemic, income inequality throughout our country. But because of COVID, I think that COVID lens was there that really magnified all the racial injustices, the income inequality, and what does that mean for people as far as where they live, how they work. We mentioned frontline employees. A lot of those frontline employees have to work, and they're working multiple jobs. And many of them have they have health risks themselves, so they're more vulnerable. For me, that one day watching George Floyd, I'm sitting at my dining room table and I see Derek Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck. I'm sitting at my dining room table watching someone take their last breath, saying they can't breathe and crying out to mama. I wept. It was just horrific. Then I saw in the upcoming days the national outrage. It took days, but it came. The national outcry, the protests. And I looked at who the protesters were, and I paused for a minute. And I said, oh my God, it looks different than anything I've ever seen. It was intergenerational, it was multicultural, it was multiracial. The protesters looked different. People were coming together for Black Lives Matter. First time I've ever seen it at that scale. So George Floyd lost his life. It was horrific. He was the catalyst to something that seems really good right now. And I'm hoping that, it's going to move forward. I feel encouraged that we as an organization, we'll just revive our diversity, equity, and inclusion group council. What can we do to keep this movement going throughout the country, but at HMEA for all the people we support and all our employees, may I add, who are direct care employees, probably 60 to 70% people of color. So it's been a heavy time, but I can see some of the silver linings from these things. From the pandemic, we've learned a lot of things and how we as an organization are nimble. We could really pivot and just do things differently and really keep people safe and supported, as well as talking to our employees about this whole anti-racism thing and what we can do to make sure HMEA is a safe place to work, live, and play as well.
So you're talking about a movement, and we do live in a democracy. So I'm going to be entering a new role on July 1st.
Tell us about your new role, Mike, because you've been doing a lot of exciting things through the past 20-something years that you've been leading this organization with great vision and passion. So we're really ready to work with you and harness that passion in some other areas as we move forward.
Yeah, so this is a big year in our country. November 3rd, of course, is Election Day. So our trade organization, the Providers Council, the Caring Force will be trying to enlist all of our staff out there who are listening and to get out the vote movement. Your vote matters. Every vote counts, and this year is extremely important. The other thing is that, we talk about equity, but we have not done enough for staff and staff salaries. I've said this over and over again. So even though Massachusetts has a huge budget deficit, about $6 billion, there is still money in the governor's budget as we speak for staff raises. So through the Caring Force, I'm going to be asking staff with me to send messages to Beacon Hill to make sure we get some of that money. We also are going to need continued support for PPE for our residential programs, for our day programs. So in my new role, I'm going to be particularly pumped up, even in these dark times, to get staff some of the money they deserve and make sure, please join me in getting out the vote. Thank you. So this has been good to talk about transition. Congratulations on your new role.
Thank you, and congratulations to you as well. I'm glad you're going to still be here working with us. We're all excited about that. We have some good things to look forward to. There's no doubt.
Okay, let's go for it. Thanks.
All right, great. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.